Hi guys, my name's Connor. I'm a science fiction, political, and philosophy nerd, a Marine Corps and law enforcement veteran, and I like breaking down the news and commentary and current events and debates of the day online. I'm a never Trump Republican, so basically I have capital L liberal philosophy until I say something very chuddy. So just deal with it, I guess. We're going to be watching Vaush, who is a libertarian. Oh no, I think he has the same brush I do. This is going to be funny. He's a libertarian socialist slash anarcho-communist. I forget what he identifies as these days, but effectively a very far lefty guy. But he's going to be criticizing CCP tankies as they talk to authoritarian communists. He's going to be criticizing authoritarian communists on a Mehdi Hasan program. So I could yap for another 5 minutes about how funny this is going to be, but instead, let's just start watching.
You say they're all happy, but you won't let in independent investigators. You won't let in journalists to go there.
Why not?
They're not allowed to go there.
I will be happy to escort you to Xinjiang.
Really?
Escort.
I can make that promise.
Really?
I will speak to the Chinese government.
Here's the problem.
To the Chinese embassy.
I don't want to escort. I don't want minders. I want to go freely. Will you allow that?
True. Well,
when the Westoid hits you with a take so democratic, you just have to hit him with the CCP stare.
am I going to like Vaush in this segment? We shall see.
You're doing something that will country.
It is not a loyalty test. Here, for example, in Britain, if you are a British citizen, you need to support the...
Better dressed than basically any Westerner I see in interviews. It's over for the West.
monarchy. You cannot say,
I'm standing in Britain. I don't support the monarchy. I don't like King Charles.
No, you cannot say, no.
I just said it.
Mehdi,
I literally just said it.
you cannot take any action to oppose the monarchy system.
But I don't have to sign a pledge saying I support King Charles.
Well, each country is different.
Yeah,
we are talking about China.
China is very
and
different.
China has one policy which is part of the constitution.
Which involves everyone, people in Taiwan who don't want to be part of your country. Let's bring in our panel who are waiting to come in and join. Let's see what they think. I'm joined by Stephen Chan, professor at the University of London School
How does
of
this kick off?
by 3 London.
Thank you for having me.
China has upped its military spending. It's expanding its nuclear arsenal. It now has the biggest navy in the world. Chinese President Xi Jinping has said that the country's military should be capable of, quote, fighting and winning wars, and told the military to focus all your energy on fighting, improve your capability to win. Victor, who do you want to fight and who do you want to win against?
Cornelius, you got catfish because the Nick thing, it's not released yet. Candace hasn't released it yet, so I got to move on to other content.
First of all, the Chinese military spending is the second largest in the world, but it is only a fraction of that of the United States. And China has a very difficult geopolitical situation. China has 14 land neighboring countries altogether and 6 maritime nations for China. Therefore, China's defensive in nature, is not for fighting anyone except those who want to invade China or to launch a war against China. China's military spending is for peace rather than war, and war will be forced upon China, and China need to fight back.
You say it's for peace, but your neighbors don't agree. Your neighbors are pretty worried about you. You go through the list. Japan has sounded the alarm, saying your military buildup is very serious concern to them. India is worried about China on its border. And the Philippines president has warned that China is becoming a more pronounced and worrisome threat, he says. Those are the elected governments of countries representing over 1.6 billion people in Asia. This is not the United States. This is not the West. These are your Asian neighbors saying, we're worried about China.
Maybe you mentioned 3 of the neighboring countries of China. Let's talk about each of them very quickly. Japan unconditionally surrendered not only to the United States, but also to China in 1945.
I remember this.
If you read very carefully the unconditional surrender document that Japan signed, then you will know how Japan needs to conduct its foreign affairs as well as its military troops with China and with all those countries that Japan unconditionally surrendered for. India is a great nation, and there is a territorial dispute between
I'm gonna use this as a quick way to do. As a matter of fact, I'm probably gonna pull up the original. If you're okay with that, Sycamore, I'm gonna pull up the original Mehdi Hasan versus CCP debate. The reason why I'm gonna pull up the original is just because I don't want to do a duplicative interview compared to Vaush, but I'm gonna tell you the geopolitical inference I have from that. So with the geopolitical inference, China, at least this is the way that it was said, but I feel like this can change at any point. China has an imperial history of having vassal states. I'm actually going to pull up a map as well, where China did engage in militarist conflicts, but it, at least according to the history book or the history class that I took, they never really conquered Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia just presumed that China was so powerful that they could conquer, and so they became tributary states. So Vietnam and Laos and Cambodia and Thailand and Burma and Bangladesh and all these different places, they didn't go to war with China. They just paid an imperial tributary tithe to China under the presumption that China was powerful enough to invade, right? And then same thing with Mongolia. Like, Chinese history is actually filled with northern aggression, where, who is it? The Manchurians, the Manchu, or somewhere in here. Where's Manchuria? It should be right here. It might be within China. Where's Manchuria? It's not labeled. That's sad. But anyways, Mongolians conquered China a few times. They ruled for like 150 years. The Manchu actually ruled for like 500 years, 600 years, somewhere in there. And, excuse me, this should be Manchuria right here. But anyways, the point is that China doesn't view itself as an imperialist nation despite several wars with its neighbors. And so they do view themselves as the good guys of history. LB, already starting with the CCP simping. China hasn't invaded anyone in a long time, but the USA, Japan, Germany, and Russia invaded China. America even used nukes. So, yeah, but we didn't use nukes against China. We used it against Japan. LB says, I know China is eating America's lunch in the past few decades. America is going backwards. Stop. Stop. Stop, LB. You're already pissing me off. Chinese GDP versus US. They have 1.2 billion people, and they're sitting at $20 trillion. They had a whole century to catch up, and they're still 2/3 of the American economy. Not just that, Chinese military spending versus US. They're at, the US spent almost $1 trillion, and China spent 314 billion. Come on. Come on. Come on. All right. Now, it's not that China can't deny us. They can buy a bunch of cheap diesel submarines, and they can harass the shit out of the US Navy and probably sink a healthy chunk of it using infinitely cheaper technology. They can also use infinitely more infantry and a merchant fleet in order to invade Taiwan. So it's not whether or not China is dangerous. China is super dangerous. I'm just saying, like, yeah, like, come on, man. Come on. You can tell me they're dangerous while not also exaggerating the threat. Starhawk says, imagine simping for an authoritarian regime. I will not. True Zealot says, lol, he had a war of northern aggression, sir. Your Florida is showing. What'd I say? Melody says, I need talking points to argue against China. I have a Chinese friend who might be a CCP spy that I argue with. Lol. Well, we'll probably get some of these through here. LB says, we're talking about the threat of war. No, how does China stack up? Facts over feels, Connor? Yeah, they're fucking dangerous. We could still fucking kill the shit out of them. You can have we can evaporate. What does China have? 1.2 billion people? Google. Why did I type in Google to Google? Chinese population. China has 1.4 billion people. We could put our entire nuclear subfleet here, we could move nukes to Japan, and we could evaporate the entire Chinese population before they even have the ability to respond. Now, I'm not saying that's what we should do. I'm just saying that's what we could do. Okay? Hide your weenus. I will not. You can frame facts many different ways. True. You trust Trump and Hegseth against China? Absolutely not. Anyways, I'm going to leave the Chinese map on. But the whole point is China doesn't view itself as the bad guy. They don't view themselves as the aggressor. They did have the Sino-Vietnamese War, where after the Vietnam War with the United States, they tried to have increased influence in Vietnam, but Vietnam kicked the shit out of them. They also supported the Cambodian Khmer, and then the Vietnamese kicked the shit out of the Cambodian Khmer. So they actually just don't really have that big of a history of like conquest.
The unconditional surrender document that Japan signed, then you will know how Japan need to conduct its foreign affairs.
Yes. Sycamore says China, Vietnam was late 70s, early 80s. Yes.
As well as its military troops with China and with all those countries that Japan unconditionally surrendered for. India is a great nation, and there is a territorial dispute between China and India, but that dispute was not created by China, neither was it created by India. It was created or left behind by the British Indian government.
That's a great history lesson. But right now, China, in 2024, the defense spending is going up by 7%, the most for 5 years. You've had 29 consecutive years of military expenditure growth, the most of any country in the world. Since 2022, China has...
They're poor and they're industrializing. It's a problem and it's scary, but it's not... It's perfectly rational within their self-interest.
Increased military drills around Taiwan. It's escalated since the new Taiwanese president was inaugurated in May. China is not a fan of him. Since then, there's been almost daily activity involving China's warships, drones, cyber attacks against Taiwan. China is getting ready to...
We're talking about the Sino-Vietnamese War, LB. Come on. You guys are just going to invade. You're just going to trigger a bunch of fucking geopolitical fucking rants from me. What are you doing? We got to get through the content. The Sino-Vietnamese War was brief but fought in early 1979 between China and Vietnam. It stemmed from the complex relationships between the two communist nations, exacerbated by Vietnam's invasion of Cambodia and alignment with the Soviet Union. This is what we're talking about, LB. This is what we're talking about.
Taiwan, isn't it?
There is only one China. Taiwan is part of China, and the government of the People's Republic of China is the sole legitimate government for the totality of China. The exact status between the two sides of the Taiwan Strait is the unfinished civil war back in 1949. So ever since the beginning of the 1980s, China does not want to use a war to solve this unification problem.
You don't want to use a war, but you're surrounding it with ships, drones, cyber attacks, and making lots of threats.
Each time when the separatists in Taiwan want to push the edge of the envelope, they will come across more and more demonstration of the commitment of the Chinese nation to eventually achieve peaceful reunification or otherwise. That's the
or otherwise.
test.
Your defense minister said anyone who dares to pursue independence for Taiwan will be crushed into pieces and face destruction. Sounds like a truly peaceful guy.
That's a real statement, because if the separatists really wants to push the edge of the envelope with the aid of some big country, for example, which wants to use
the United States, he's saying that effectively if the United States backs Taiwan, then they will crush United States forces in Taiwan. That's what he's saying.
Use Taiwan as a proxy in its own geopolitical rivalry against China, then wait until you see what will happen. Reunification will be achieved, and China is the only permanent member of the United Nations Security Council which has not yet achieved a complete reunification.
Well, I'm always amused with this phrase reunification, because if it's one China, then clearly it's not one.
Larry Hutchinson says, I was on your side until you said they might be able to sink a ship. As a former sailor, I find that laughable if they use crude technology. Well, maybe crude technology is where I lost you. So it's my understanding that the Chinese Navy is not pursuing parity with the United States. There's that word again, parity. They're not trying to achieve the same technological advantages of the United States. They're trying to use area denial technology. So the main ones that I know about are Chinese diesel submarines. The reason why diesel submarines are interesting is because they operate fairly loudly when they're using diesel, but they basically power an electric battery that then they can run silent on. And so diesel submarines are a really cheap counter to the US Navy. Then the other thing, comparatively cheap. The other thing that I know of is Chinese hypersonic missiles. I think they're building hypersonic missiles specifically for area denial, the DFZF. So you'd have to Google it and research it, but they're medium range ballistic missiles. What's their range? The DF is thought to reach speeds of 4,000 miles per hour, which is fucking bananas. And what's the DFZF range? DFZF range is 1,200 miles. So let's take a look at this. 500 miles. This is 50 miles. Okay. So it looks like Taiwan is maybe 100 miles off of the Chinese coast. And so if you had the US Navy, because I think like, isn't international waters like 10 kilometers? What is international waters distance? International waters, also known as the high seas, are generally considered to be any area of the ocean beyond an exclusive economic zone of coastal nations, which typically is beyond 200 nautical miles from the baseline of the coast. All right, so 200 nautical miles. So the truth is that if Taiwan is here, and then the United States Navy in a show of force comes into Taiwan, we're actually technically in Chinese waters. I don't know the laws of warfare, because I know Bill Clinton actually put our Navy between China and Taiwan when China was doing a bunch of saber rattling, which is kind of fucking bananas when you think about it. But the truth is, let's say that China is threatening to invade Taiwan and they're saber rattling about invasion. Let's say that the United States Navy deploys around the island of Taiwan to at least posture that we're going to support them militarily in case of invasion. The truth is that we would be well within hypersonic missile distance if all the missiles were deployed to the coastline. And then it also stands to reason that they would have a shitload of diesel subs running around in this area, and they could run quiet to the point that we couldn't find them. And so if they decided to attack our Navy deployed around the island of Taiwan, they could probably sink a few American ships. I think it stands to reason. I know that naval ships are, American naval ships compartmentalized where under like drills. Have you guys ever seen this? American naval ship bulkheads. So effectively, American naval ships, my understanding is that they're all compartmentalized to the point that you basically cut off different sections of the boat. So if a missile pierces a certain part of the ship, it doesn't flood the entire ship. And so as a result, like US naval ships are extremely compartmentalized to the point that you basically have to rip the whole thing apart in order to sink it. But I'm pretty sure a dozen hypersonic missiles and a dozen torpedoes from diesel subs could sink a US carrier or a US destroyer. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems reasonable to me. Could be wrong. I was in the men's department of the Navy, the Marine Corps. So I don't know about naval buoyancy. LB says, how many bombs has China dropped in the last 30 years? I don't know. We just want peace or total annihilation. True. Christian Blair says, less than 1,000 ships can travel more than 1,000 miles. Yep. I only trust the Cajun Navy. True. All right, back to it.
China, clearly you're accepting by definition if you need to reunify it. They are doing their own thing. And why this obsession with Taiwan? You are a country of 3.7 million square miles, a population 60 times that of Taiwan, economy 20 times the size of Taiwan. Why are you obsessed with Taiwan? Why not just leave them be?
In terms of defending China's sovereignty and territorial integrity, any inch of land is not 1 inch too much. Any one single person is not one person too many. So we need to achieve reunification as
Even though they don't want to be part of your country. 12% of the people of Taiwan say they want to reunify with China. 12%. You can't get more unpopular than that in that.
Mehdi, it's not up to the people in Taiwan to decide about the one China policy.
You're very blunt in your disregard for people's views, freedoms, dignity. You say you don't care about what they think. You also said in an interview with the French newspaper Le Monde, once we get the island back, we'll have to ask everyone's origins. Those who have Japanese ancestry, who you basically say can constitute 10% of the population, will have to pledge loyalty to reunification in writing. Otherwise, we'll have to help them leave. You're basically calling for the ethnic cleansing of 2.3 million people in Taiwan.
No, you remember back in 1945, when Japan unconditionally surrendered, a lot of people in Taiwan who originally came from Japan, they were the rulers of Taiwan at the time, they stayed behind because of the magnanimity of the Chinese nation. Now, several decades later, they account for about 10% of the local population in Taiwan. Now, if you really do your homework, you will realize that those die-hard Taiwanese separatists include many of these Japanese Chinese.
But okay. But you would get rid of them. You would get rid of 2.3 million people.
No, after the reunification, everyone in Taiwan need to make a pledge whether they acknowledge there is only one China and Taiwan is part of China.
And if they don't make that pledge, they're out.
Those who pledge for the one China.
By the way, I actually really like this conversation because you have to understand that we are fish swimming in the waters of freedom. I can say, fuck Trump, fuck his admin, they're pieces of shit, I hope they rot in hell, and I will literally have nothing happen to me, okay? Because I'm not specifically threatening these people. I'm not threatening to kill them. I'm not threatening to do anything illegal or extrajudicial or anything like that. But I can still say that I think what the government is doing in reference to this topic is evil, and they're pieces of shit, and they deserve to burn in hell. This guy is effectively saying, you don't have freedom of conscience. You don't have freedom of speech. I don't give a shit if you think that democracy is the right way to go. Effectively, if you're going to be a part of China and Taiwan is a part of China, you either pledge allegiance to us, or we're going to deport you, or we're going to kill you, which is fucking crazy. The dude's just saying it, which honestly, I appreciate. I appreciate his honesty. Honestly, I appreciate his honesty. And what's the other thing too? This just kind of tells me that from a pragmatic perspective, that 100% the cultural genocide, which I already believe to be happening in Xinjiang with the Uyghurs, 100% happened. Because basically this guy's saying like, yeah, if you don't agree with us, then fuck you. That's his perspective. Now, I feel that way too, but I feel that way about liberalism, capital L. I feel that way about freedom of conscience, freedom of speech, right to self-defense, and limited government. So he's saying, if you don't agree with me, fuck you. I'm saying the same thing in reverse, but I think my ideology is better. I need to check on my 3D printer because it stopped. I want to see if the job's actually done or if I ran out of filament, and I need to use the restroom and get a water refill. So I'm just going to leave you with the sweet, soothing propaganda of the Chinese Communist Party.
Policy. They are local.
You didn't, by the way,
citizens.
You didn't say everyone. You said of Japanese descent. That is literally ethnic. You're picking people by their ethnic heritage, making them do a loyalty test. Otherwise, they have to get out of the country.
It is not a loyalty test. Here, for example, in Britain, if you are a British citizen, you need to support the monarchy. You cannot say,
No, I'm standing in Britain. I don't support the monarchy. I don't like King Charles.
No, you cannot say. No,
I just said it.
Mehdi,
I literally just said it.
You cannot take any action to oppose the monarchy system.
But I don't have to sign a pledge saying I support King Charles.
Well, each country is different.
Yeah,
we are talking about China.
China is very different.
And China has one policy which is part of the constitution.
Which involves everyone, people in Taiwan who don't want to be part of your country. Let's bring in our panel who are waiting to come in and join. Let's see what they think. I'm joined by Stephen.
I am gonna copy Mehdi, or I'm gonna copy his Vaush, and I'm gonna go to the head-to-head. I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab some water.
Welcome back to Head to Head on Al Jazeera English. My guest this week is Victor Gao, former interpreter to the late Chinese leader Deng Xiaoping, vice president of the Center for China and Globalization in Beijing, and an ardent promoter of the People's Republic. We're also joined by an expert panel here in London's Conway Hall and a live audience who we're going to hear from shortly. Victor, before we get to the audience, in 2019, on this very show, I asked the question, is Xi Jinping gearing up to be president for life, dictator-in-chief? I mean, he's the most powerful leader of China since Mao. He's abolished presidential term limits. He's now in his third 5-year term as president. So I'll ask again tonight, is he now president for life, a true dictator?
For the record, first of all, Chinese President Xi Jinping will never be president for life. There will be a time limit. When it will be handled according to the Chinese legal system and constitution. Secondly, there is no dictator in China. Why? Because dictatorship simply doesn't work. Democracy means modernization. And how can you explain profound transformation of China over the past 45 years in China if you have dictatorship or authoritarian rule? No, every leader in China will be put into a team, and teamwork will be much more important than individualism.
Victor. Maybe previous presidents did, maybe Jiang Zemin or Hu Jintao. Everyone knows Xi Jinping has centralized power, consolidated power, got rid of term limits. You say there's a way to get rid of him, but there isn't actually a legal way to get rid of him. He's in power for life, and he likes being a dictator. Why are we pretending?
Mehdi, allow me to remind you, the Communist Party of China, which is the ruling party of China, has a membership of up to 100 million people.
Yeah.
It's well structured. Every province, every state-owned enterprise, etc., will have a party cell.
There's no division or debate within the Chinese Communist Party.
Listen to me. No single person in China can dictate to a population of 1.4 billion people and 100 million membership of the Communist Party of China.
Okay, let's test that.
That's a mission impossible.
Let's test that proposition. The president won a vote last year. Won a vote. I'll put that in air quotes. Do you know the tally of last year's presidential vote in favor of Xi Jinping by the National People's Congress? Part of that structure you just advertised to us. What was the vote? Can you tell our audience here?
I think it's up to about 100%. That doesn't.
2,952 to 0.
Yes, that's exactly what I said.
Could you not find a few people just to make it look a little even? One or two?
Mehdi, it's not surprising. It's not surprising.
2,952 to 0. That's one man rule, my friend.
In the Chinese system.
Yeah, so the same thing that makes it Mehdi annoying to me, I think he can be quite smug, obnoxious, abrasive, whatever. But I think it is good to have people pressed, right? And it's very clear that this guy, he keeps not talking to Mehdi. He keeps talking to the audience. He keeps trying to use like these really rational appeals where he's like, listen, a single man cannot dictate the will of 1.2 billion people. And I mean, that's true. 1.4, I think, actually. That's true. And then he also says, we have regional governments. So even if Xi Jinping is in charge at the upper level, there's still debate at the regional level, and there's still debate at the city level, and there's still the debate at this, that, the other, which also makes sense to me intuitively. This guy is a very skilled propagandist and apologist for the CCP regime. But it also kind of reinforces to me that the CCP does what I probably suspect it does, right?
Everyone supports the Chinese president.
You just told us 10 seconds ago there's this huge system, a big party, one guy, and then you're like, oh no, but everyone supports him. 0 votes against him. One person out of 3,000 couldn't say, Xi Jinping, not my guy. One.
What if he is the guy for all the Communist Party of China? You never know.
Well, if that's the case, then your entire first answer is redundant, because it doesn't matter if there's 100 million people.
It's okay to have your beliefs, but not their beliefs. Very hypocritical of you. LB, for the love of God, my belief system is that it's okay to have a plurality of beliefs. Their belief system is that you have to have one belief. You do understand there's a difference between those two conceptions, right? It's the paradox of tolerance. It's the irony of liberty, is that in order for liberalism and freedom to work, everybody has to believe in liberalism and liberty. If you have an authoritarian who doesn't believe in that stuff, then it's not the same to say everybody must agree with my exact prescription for reality. It is not the same.
They all have to follow the leader.
No, he does command huge respect among the Chinese people, as well as
you say respect, I say fear. Do you know how many names were on the ballot papers that were given in 2013? How many names were on the ballot paper when they went to choose the president? Can you tell our audience?
I think there is only one candidate.
Yeah, there were no other names. That's a real secure leader, a guy who knows he has the confidence of his people. You get to vote, but only for me, and none of you can actually vote against me.
Mehdi, we do not want to end up in a situation with 6 prime ministers in 80 years.
Yeah. So you prefer a dictatorship?
No, we prefer a system that works for the benefit of the Chinese people.
I've not said a word about what works or not.
That, by the way, this is political corporatism 100%. All day, every day. A statement of, we prefer a system that it works exclusively to the benefit of the Chinese people is a system that does not support dissent. And it is rooted in the concept of political corporatism. And by the way, I'm a political corporatist. But that's like 50% of fascism, is where you treat the economy like the heart. You treat the capillary system and the venous system is the logistic system of a nation. The government is the brain. The intel agencies are the eyes. The police services are the white blood cells, the immune system. So this is 100% political corporatism all day. The reason why it's scary, because I think it's a useful analogy for how to conceptualize politics. The reason why it's scary hearing that coming from a CCP guy is because effectively he's saying like, yep. And then that combined with authoritarianism is just fascism. So unironically, we're talking to a committed, avowed, somebody who principally believes in flexible authoritarianism and political corporatism. He might not think of himself as a fascist. He probably thinks himself as a socialist or a communist. But ideologically, there is very little difference between him and a fascist. Very little.
You got great economic growth.
Look at the.
But you're a dictatorship.
There is no dictatorship, Mehdi.
You just admitted
you want me to,
that there's no name on the ballot paper, no votes against him, and they all just follow him. That's a dictatorship.
Mehdi, when you have
you
a
can say my name
of
multiple
the
times,
king after
but it's a
queen,
dictatorship.
How many candidates are there on the ballot paper?
How many? What? King and queen.
When the king succeeds the queen,
yes.
How many candidates are there on the ballot paper?
How many?
Does that make Britain not a democracy?
Well, you're asking the wrong guy. I'm a Republican, so I think we should be a full democracy and get rid of the monarchy. And I can say that.
Based Mehdi Hasan. Republican Mehdi Hasan. Very based.
Here, you can't say that in China.
You cannot take any action against that.
Yes, I can, actually. I can go out on the street, I can hold up a placard and say, let's get rid of King Charles. I can create a whole protest outside Buckingham Palace. You can't do that in China. You can't even put one other person's name on a ballot paper. That's how insecure your leader is.
Mehdi, I'm a lawyer. In my capacity as a lawyer, I can give you a long list of things that you cannot do regarding the monarchy here in Britain.
I'm not debating that. I'm saying that we have an elected government. We get to choose. We get to swap 6 prime ministers, God help us. But we get to pick. Everyone in this room who's a citizen gets to pick.
Listen, you end up with your mini budget, which bankrupt the whole country.
But that's an honest answer, Victor. But Victor, I admire that because that's an honest answer. Your answer is, it's a dictatorship that works. At least say that.
No.
No, you can't. You keep dodging. One minute you say, it's not a dictatorship. Then I show you it is. You say, but it's working. We've got growth.
Mehdi,
pick one.
Mehdi, if that is your point, I will seriously urge you to do more homework about how the Chinese system works.
Okay, let's talk about the Chinese system, because I did a little bit of homework. It's Did you know that Xi Jinping put his name in the Constitution? That's weird.
Well,
Sycamore says, Connor, I'd love to hear your refutation to contemporary China not being state capitalist. It is state capitalist, but fascism has no preference on economics. Fascism prefers whatever economics work. If a command economy worked in a fascist system of government, they would go with a command economy. If a free market economy worked in a fascist government, they would do it. Now, of course, that becomes like nepotistic and crony, where you are engaged in a free market at the whim of the fascist government, but they don't care.
Leader of the country put his own name in the constitution while he's president. No one's done that since Mao. None of the other Chinese presidents, not Hu Jintao, not your old boss Deng Xiaoping, none of them did it. Did they? Or am I wrong?
It's wrong.
Who did it?
The Chinese constitution has been most frequently amended compared with any other country.
Am I wrong about what I just said with my little bit of
Mao's
homework?
name was put into the constitution.
That's what I said.
Deng's name was put into the
Not
constitution.
while he was president.
And Jiang Zemin's
Not while he
name
was
was put into the
Not
constitution.
while they were sitting presidents, and you know that. Tell our crowd here, not while they were president. They didn't do it themselves.
According to my recollection, each of
Not
these
your
names
recollection.
were put into the constitution
Not while they were sitting
while
president.
the leaders were still alive.
Okay, so I'm right.
Mao
Not while they were president.
Deng
I love the little slip.
and-
Even Donald Trump, one of the great narcissists of our time, has not proposed yet putting his name into the US Constitution. If you are the president of China, you're elected without any opponents, no names on the ballot paper, 0 votes against you, you put your name in the Constitution, 6-year-olds are taught about Xi Jinping thought in primary school. That is not just a dictatorship, that is a cult of personality.
I don't think China believes in personal.
So why are
personality
6-year-olds
cult.
learning about Xi Jinping thought? I'm pretty sure no 6-year-olds learned about Liz Truss's mini budget. Victor.
The Chinese system is such that once you orient the country in one direction, everyone follows the suit.
Do they follow or are they ordered to follow? They don't follow out of choice.
No, it's like a vehicle with 4 wheels. Here, you have 4 wheels aligned in different directions.
Okay.
Nice.
Opposing directions. In China, the 4 wheels of a car all lined up in one direction.
Well, they don't.
Going forward.
Well, they don't, Victor. Let me give you an example.
That's the Chinese way of doing it.
Former Foreign Minister Qin Gang was removed from his post and has not been seen in public since June 2023. A few months later, China's Defense Minister, General Li Shangfu, disappeared from public view for months, has now been expelled from the party, accused of corruption. That's at least 2 ministers that disappeared just in the last.
Shortstop Dogman says, why does Food Shops appear on your recommended videos? She's covering Destiny drama, and she's attacking JStock. And so while, of course, I object to Food Shop's attempted normalization of lolicon, I'm very happy that she has moved away from that as content and has just embraced normie Twitch and YouTube political commentary. And she's not terrible. She's not bad at commentary. She watches for 5 minutes. She pauses. She injects her insight. She unpauses. She watches. She's not an untalented person. So if you're okay with her voice, she's not doing terribly. Now, of course, if she's still endorsing lolicon, if she still has the same perspective that she did 6 months ago, then I wouldn't want to platform her, and I wouldn't want to encourage you to engage with her content if that's still her perspective. But as far as the JStock content that I've watched, there's nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly average quality commentary content.
Last year. With apologies to Oscar Wilde, to lose 1 minister might be unfortunate. To lose 2 is careless, is it not?
Do you know the point I want to make? This means
Hi, Dantes.
China is really merciless in dealing with corruption of all kinds, even among the
Your
highest
foreign
ranks.
minister and defense minister. Imagine Antony Blinken and Lloyd Austin just disappeared tomorrow. We don't know where they are. We've never seen them again. That's not normal, Victor.
Listen, corruption is
True.
rampant in
How do we know
China.
they're corrupt? They just disappeared. Where's the trial?
Where's the
True. Mehdi's being an asshole. And I would view, if I was like sympathetic to the interviewee, I would view this behavior as obnoxious. But the truth is that if China wants to demonstrate to the entire world that they have a corruption problem and they're dealing with it, you would have a trial, you would present evidence, you would convict them, and then you would move on. You wouldn't just have, excuse me, you wouldn't just have ministers disappearing from public life and possibly from private life. I have no idea where these guys are. I don't think you do either. So yeah, this is quite interesting. Watching a member of the free press press an actual dictatorial apologist is actually, yeah, I love this. This is great.
The trial,
finish my point. Corruption of all kinds in China need to be dealt with.
So where's the trial?
Mercilessness.
So where's the trial? Where's the trial of the former foreign minister? We don't even know where he is.
Mehdi, those things you don't know doesn't mean doesn't happen.
Where is the trial for
Yep.
this man you're just accusing of corruption?
Qin Gang was my good friend for more than 20 years.
Where is he then?
He is involved in corruption.
Where is he?
And he is dealt with very swiftly.
Where is he, Victor?
Regardless of
He's your good friend. You don't know where he is.
Regardless
Where?
of
Dude, that is fucking terrifying. That's terrifying. He's like, my friend was accused of corruption, and he was dealt with very swiftly. And Mehdi says, where is he? Where is he? Where is he? And he's not giving an answer. So my brain, maybe I just have lib brain. Maybe I just have liberal brain. But I'm thinking he's either incarcerated for the rest of his life, never to be seen again, or he's fucking dead. That's where my brain goes to. This guy was either executed or under accusations of corruption, or he's incarcerated for the rest of his life. That's immediately where my brain pops. The fact that this guy won't say, oh yeah, he went to trial, CCP found him guilty, there was a strong review of evidence and we incarcerated him. That would be creepy, but I would accept it as an answer. The fact that he won't answer it is like incarcerated without trial for life / executed. That's scary as fuck. This is some Nazi shit. I swear to God, y'all think America is fucked up right now? This is what we could be if we don't pay attention.
Where is the former foreign minister of China?
Position.
This is not a hard question. We're not asking where Rehan's brother in the middle of Xinjiang is that you can dodge. Where is the former foreign minister of China who disappeared? And by the way, he wasn't accused of corruption. The spokesman came out and said he has health reasons. Then corruption came later, by the way. Where did he go, your friend?
That means there is a process. And the process
starts with one lie that he's ill, and then the next lie is he's corrupt.
He may be ill. You never know.
I mean, he's probably ill after he's been in.
Why won't you say if he's ill? Why would you say maybe he's ill, but you'll never know? What the fuck does that mean? Oh my God.
A Chinese prison.
He may be ill now. You never know.
Exactly.
But at least
where is he?
Qin Gang lost his job
Victor, where is he?
of his corruption.
Last question.
That's the point.
Where is he?
He's somewhere in China. You will never see him.
So he's incarcerated against his will without trial. That's fucking crazy. Oh, he's not even saying he's alive. Hold on. Let's watch that again.
But at least
Where is he?
Qin Gang lost his job
Victor, where is he?
of his corruption.
Last question.
That's the point.
Where is he?
He's somewhere in China. You will never see him.
He's somewhere in China and you will never see him. That still means that he could be incarcerated for life, or it means that he could be dead. Holy shit.
He's among the 1.4
Insane.
billion people.
And no, it's not just him. There's many other people who have disappeared. The previous defense minister disappeared. The Ministry of Industry and Technology disappeared. The former Interpol president disappeared. In China, you just disappear if they don't like you. That's the rule of law in China.
I'm so happy they disappear, because if they keep doing their job, they will bring greater disaster.
Victor, be careful what you
nation.
wish for, because everyone's watching this show. And if you get something wrong tonight, maybe you disappear.
If I disappear, I hope you will bail me out.
Okay, that's funny, and he's charismatic, but do you understand how fucked up that is? Mehdi Hasan says, if you fuck up too much during this interview, you could disappear. And he goes, well, I hope you pay attention enough to try to save me. What the fuck?
Have to find you first, and China is apparently a big country. I want to bring in Stephen Chan, professor at the University of London School of Oriental African Studies. Stephen, Xi Jinping's policies, his crackdown on dissidents. I mean, China was never a democracy. Other presidents were also dictatorial. But can we agree that Xi Jinping is on a different level when it comes to repression at home, the consolidation of power? I assume you disagree with Victor's description of him as part of a, four-wheel car all driving in the same direction happily.
He certainly consolidated his power. He is a very, very strong president. And I think that the real test of all of this is how China has treated Hong Kong, with the increasing clampdown on dissent and free expression of opinion when they were meant to have a degree of freedom and a one country, two system way of approaching life. We can't see
Randy Chang says, when is this from? This is wild. This was 11 months ago.
any evidence of vibrant debate in China. And I'd note that one of the great
I gotta pause. Fung Dark says, he was dealt with. What do you want me to say? Classic DGG meme. Classic.
disappointments of my life is when I read Chinese academic works. Everyone toes a party line. No one does independent research to publish, as it were, anything critical of, for instance, not just Xi Jinping, anything critical about Chinese foreign policy.
Well, they might disappear.
They might not get promoted in any case.
Rehan Assad is a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council International Human Rights Law. Rehan, in part one, we talked in depth about the repression against the Uyghurs and your own personal situation. In 2014, Xi Jinping privately called for an all-out struggle, quote, against terrorism and to show absolutely no mercy after a visit to Xinjiang. How much do you believe Xi Jinping is driving what's happening in Xinjiang? How much do you think he's responsible for the repression in China?
Well, the matter of the fact is that all of which happened under current administration. Right? So many scholars are attributing to him. It happened under his reign. He's the one who said absolutely no mercy, stamping out roots and branches of the Uyghurs, breaking out their connection. And these are the policies implemented under his leadership. So it's very hard to separate Xi Jinping from the current policy, Xinjiang.
Martin Jakes, author of the best-selling book, When China Rules the World. You heard Victor talk about, well, we can't be a dictatorship because we're doing so well, the economy is doing amazing, we don't have Liz Truss mini budgets, etc. But then you get into the debate about, can dictatorship and growth coexist? Do you need to have democracy to go alongside that? And I think about
one of the So this is a crazy talking point. Sorry, I'm fucking with my 3D printed stuff, so I don't, sorry. I'm getting distracted, but I'm very excited that my 3D printer is kind of working. It's still fucked up. I might have to buy a new printer. But anyways, Nazi Germany, industrialization, Times Magazine. So, Man of the Year 1938. So, Adolf Hitler, Man of the Year 1938. The 1,500 miles of magnificent highways built, schemes for cheap cars and simple workers' benefits, grandiose plans for rebuilding German cities made by Germans. This was like, dude, there was so much praise for Hitler in the 1930s as somebody who revitalized German industry. So to pretend that economic development cannot correlate with an authoritarian government is dumb. And same thing with Soviet China and Maoist China in the Soviet Union, because they were effectively feudal societies, their industrializations led to massive booms. So this is somebody who's pretty freaking smart. This Chinese propagandist is pretty freaking smart. He's just telling the truth, uncomfortably telling the truth. Him appealing to, well, we're industrializing, so aren't we technically free? Hell no. Hell no. He's trying to appeal to neolibs who want to do business in China. That's what he's doing. Charles Burrows says, have you seen The Death of Stalin? There are a couple of moments where they make comments about whatever happened to so-and-so and the implication is exactly what we think. Yeah. And I love, so I haven't watched The Death of Stalin, but the part where the general is fucking with Khrushchev, I think it's Khrushchev. I forget if it's Brezhnev or Khrushchev. But there's effectively like one of the guys who has a name that you recognize. He's plotting to kill the secret police guy. And he wants to, once Stalin is dead, he wants to overthrow the secret police guy. And he wants the military to back him doing it. And the military guy, as a matter of fact, I'm just going to show you. It's so fucking funny. They all have like British accents too. It's awesome. Death of Stalin. Ooh. I like that. That looks cool. Death of Stalin, Khrushchev, Zhukov. This is one of the funniest fucking scenes in it.
It's Goebbels, punk, not Hitler's, as you well
Listen
fucking
to
know.
me. I was the one who
Put the trains back on, I know. Comrades. Fuck off. I'll punch you into a sticky pulp.
Thank you.
What the fuck were you thinking?
Oh, I don't know, okay, but I did it. And I really need your help.
To do what? His body's fucking piling up in the streets. A bit late, isn't it?
What if we blame this on someone who's out of control?
Nicky, be very careful what you say next. Who?
Beria.
I'm going to have to report this conversation. Threatening to do harm or obstruct any member of the Presidium in the process of looking at your fucking face. Nikita Koschel, you balls like Kremlin domes, right?
Stop. Be serious. Are you in?
I'm in. That fucker thinks he can take on the Red Army. I fuck Germany. I think I can take a flesh lump in a fucking waistcoat. No, it's got to be tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Sorry, you busy washing your hair or what?
So it's a comedic reinterpretation. For those of you who don't know, Stalin had a fucking stroke, and his troops were his guards were so scared to check on him because if they found him dead, they knew that they would be blamed and killed, that they basically left him there for 48 hours and reported it to like party higher ups. And so as a result of reporting it to party higher ups, everybody was fighting over the power structure, once Stalin was dead. And there was like this massive purge after Stalin was gone. Yeah, I'm 100% going to have to break this down. This is dope. It's only 1 minute, which is unfortunate, but I'll go ahead and save this to watch later. But the point is that like the communist disappearing thing is a meme for a reason. The reason why it's a meme is because if you fuck up in communist politics, you are disappeared. You are fucking killed. So yeah, this guy making a joke of like, hey, if I get disappeared, I hope you remember me and push for my release. That's scary as shit. The worst thing that would happen to Bill Clinton if he was revealed to be somebody who had sex with underage prostitutes was he would go through a public trial, be publicly embarrassed. Everybody would run away from him. He would lose all his money. And then ultimately after a trial, he would be incarcerated, and his incarceration would have a predictable sentence. Now he's an old man, so that might be scary for him because it's like a death sentence, but maybe don't break the law so brazenly. But the truth is, it would all be public. We would know where he is. So as much as the corruption of the United States sucks, and we effectively know that our intel agencies backstabbed us in order to blackmail powerful people for their own ends, at least we know that, and talking about it in public isn't going to get you killed. So yeah, I prefer our system infinitely over what this guy is representing.
The pandemic, Martin, and I think about China's reaction to the pandemic. Is that where the dictatorship, the lack of transparency, the disappearances caught up with China? Because, of course, there was a black hole in China in terms of China's censorship methods, its draconian policies, the zero COVID policy, the crackdown, which led, some people say, to over 1 million, 2 million deaths.
Conservative liberalism says, what 3D printer are you working? I have a Refurb Anycubic Viper, but it's been a pain in my ass, and it's still, I just got a perfect print off of 3 small objects, and then I did a more complex object, and the complex object is good enough that I can use it, but it's still bad. I'm gonna buy a Bamboo A1, which is $400, but it's supposed to be very reliable.
Yes, we saw protests in buildings, people screaming. Was that a moment where China actually collided with reality and said, this system, it can't survive long term?
Well, I beg to differ on the question of the pandemic, because actually for 2 years, 2020 and 2021, actually China did, under the circumstances, extremely well and well outperformed the West. And the reasons for it are quite complicated. You've got to take a very different kind of system. Now, one of the problems with the discussion, I think, so far on this question is that the country, it sounds as if the country doesn't work. If you say dictator, despot, all these kind of words.
I didn't say that, but
no, but if, and you say, not you personally, but, and one says there's no discussion. This is, I think this is absolutely untrue. So what we're presenting here is not an accurate picture. We've got
It's not about accurate pictures, it's about balance, right? So I don't deny what you're saying, but you're British. You would think it was a political earthquake if the foreign secretary and the defense secretary disappeared in the space of 6 months. Not arrested, disappeared, surely.
Yeah, and there is something odd. Look, Qin Gong was a friend of mine as well. And I don't know what's happened to him. And I think it is odd. Certainly to our eyes, it's weird that this can happen. But
yeah, he's either dead or incarcerated for life, which is fucking terrifying.
But I think that the thing is that we've got to try and get beyond.
Grassroots says, I am yet again being a dick who had to miss half the stream for a meeting. You do you, brother. Do you.
Cardboard cutouts when we're talking about China and understand how it really works.
Okay. Let's bring in our audience who've been waiting here in London's Conway Hall. I'm going to go to the lady there on the fourth row. Yes, you.
My question is, as a dissident.
Sorry, real quick. Conservative liberalism says 10-4. I knew you had mentioned getting a bamboo before, and I was hoping that the new purchase wasn't going to give you trouble. Glad to hear. Yeah, so the cool thing is the guy who's potentially backing, I need to text him later today, but the guy who's backing me for the Counterpoint Star Wars and the Counterpoints Sci-Fi channel is a huge gun nut. And so basically he's giving us enough cash that I can pay the editor in order to work. But he also put a little bit of a stipend on top of that I can use as disposable income. And so I'm going to use some of that disposable income to get a bamboo A1. So everyone knows the X1C. That's the most like iconic bamboo. That's the enclosed one that has a glass case around it. But that one's like $1,000. And then there's like a super high-end version that's like $3,000 that has 2 printers. I don't need all that. I just need a reliable printer. And so a Bamboo A1 is their basic bitch printer, and it goes really fast. And the truth is that it's only 400. Like, I can swing 400. You know, it's a little bit of a stretch. You know, I'm just paying bills. I'm just getting by. But, you know, I can make it happen. And if I have a reliable printer, then I'm 100% doing... First, I need to get a bolter redone. That way my bolter's good. Then I'm doing the Halo pistol. Then I'm getting a Caltech RDB 5.56 bullpup rifle, and I'm doing the Halo assault rifle and the Halo battle rifle on top of that. Then, hopefully by then I'll have saved up enough disposable income that I can get a Caltech RFB, which is a bullpup 308 rifle. And I'm going to build the Halo DMR on top of that. And I'm going to shoot related YouTube videos to these weapons. And then after that, we'll move into like Killzone and a few other science fiction IPs, Titanfall, you know, and we're going to build these guns, make the prints available to other people, build videos that show you how to build the guns, and then, you know, basically sell the designs or have people join a Patreon in order to get access to the designs. Believe it or not, I think I actually owe Grassroots Hegemon. He wants the pistol from Malcolm Reynolds from Firefly. And so that's obviously going to be a project during this as well. But I want to build it out of metal. I did figure out how to do that, by the way. But I need to build it out of metal, which can be expensive.
Fourth row, yes, Stu?
My question is, as a dissident from Hong Kong.
This guy isn't bought by the CCP. He is CCP.
Knowing that I cannot express freely in Hong Kong or in the UK without risking other people in trouble, I also know that you just now made claims about there's free speech in China, and it's possible to criticize the Chinese government just now again. Can you please demonstrate that free speech and tell us what are Xi Jinping's 2 worst mistakes in the past 5 years?
Great question.
If you can demonstrate to us that it's okay to criticize Xi Jinping, the Chinese government, and China, or even just say Xi Jinping kind of resembles Winnie the Pooh, would be good enough for me. Thank you.
Victor, do you want to?
Dude, this is why I hate race realists, man. I hate race realists. Why am I supposed to dislike this woman? Why am I supposed to view her as not somebody who could be integrated into the West? Why would I give 2 shits if an American citizen married this woman and had kids? She's human. She's smart. She's intelligent. She's funny. And she demonstrated that in 30 seconds. Why the fuck would I give a shit if a white person that she loves, or a black person that she loves, or a Hispanic person that she loves? Why would I give a solitary fuck that they get married and have kids. I hate race realists. I hate segregationists. I think they're so stupid and they're wasting everybody's time. They're wasting everybody's time and everybody's energy. It pisses me off.
Even just say Xi Jinping kind of resembles Winnie the Pooh would be.
Randy Chang says, surely there are pro-isolationists in China. Why are we spending so much money on the Belt and Road nonsense when we have problems at home?
Good enough for me. Thank you.
Victor, do you want to take that question?
Well, thank you. I would say China need to make more prompt, take more prompt actions in dealing with the dramatic aging population in China and the dramatic demographic.
But that's not specifically Xi Jinping. He said China. China needs to take more prompt action in reference to the aging population in China. That's not a specific criticism of Xi.
Decline.
Do you think Xi Jinping's to blame for not being fast enough on aging?
No, I think the whole Chinese government, including...
See? She's smart enough to recognize the dodge, and Mehdi Hasan is smart enough to call out the dodge. That was based.
The Central Committee, state...
Zero Fuck says, don't forget, Wick's dog needs armor too. Yeah, I know.
Council, local government need to take actions quickly to reverse that dramatic aging population problem and demographic.
Okay. We're not going to get a criticism out of you. Let's go back to the audience. Let's go to the gentleman here in the tie. Yes.
Fatsimo says he hasn't loved China enough. True. My one criticism of Xi Jinping is that he loves China so much, but there is just a little bit more with which he could love China.
Yeah, Alex, sorry, Alex Vines from Chatham House. My question is debt. So there's been very bad...
Grassroots says true. Also, I'm single. Well, I'm sorry to hear that if you broke up with your old lady, but I'll see if if this lady reaches out to me on Twitter and she's like, hey, I appreciate your commentary, I'll pass you her DMs.
Riots, for example, that's been in the news in Kenya. Some of that debt that's been causing the problem is owed to China. So the question is, how is China going to handle the increasing pressures for debt cancellation? At least 17 African countries are in particular distress this year. Thank you.
I understand the Chinese debt in these large-scale connectivity projects is only a small portion of the overall national debt, because they own debt to the United States, to Britain, to the international financing institutions, etc. They not just own debt to China, but to many other countries. That's the reality. Secondly, there is accusation about the death trap, which is...
Fatsimo says, I don't think that race realists think Chinese woman isn't human. Sure, that might be an extremity of it. But just as an example, I've seen, weirdly enough, or funnily enough, I think that when I say race realist, what I mean is that there are people who spend a lot of academic time and energy describing the phenomena of race, and also they're kind of obsessed, in my opinion, with crime statistics, IQ statistics, et cetera, but rather than admitting that there are nurture and environmental elements for crime and for intelligence, they just say, oh, the only way for us to function as coherent societies is for us to segregate. And so while you're right that they probably, as a matter of fact, ironically, a lot of race realists fetishize Asian women because Asians have higher IQ. There are very attractive Asian women, et cetera. There's more Asian women than there are white men. And so there's actually an element of fetishization of Asian women within the race realist community. They will still, if one of them publicly says, oh yeah, I have an Asian wife right now, we have 2 kids, and as a matter of fact, I'm moving out of the race realist community, they would effectively attack that person as a miscegenator and a white genocider, Janek says, we own China's debt. China owns our debt. How is this real life finagling the system? Yeah, but that means that we can forgive each other's debt. Grassroots for $20. Thank you, King. Do not share hot-based Asian ladies' DMs with me. Have you learned nothing from Destiny? Disappointing. All right. Vlad says, I know we have to do our propaganda consciously, but I love it if Cap Dude If Cap Dude would be like, of course, Supreme Leader, praise be his name has flaws, like the people, oh, CCP Dude, like the people around in the country don't work enough. Yeah, exactly. It's always going to be like a compliment sandwich. There'll be a compliment, criticism, compliment, and the criticism will be very tepid and probably extrapolated out to the general party. Conservative liberalism says, do you think what makes a race realist is the desire to segregate? So anyone who acknowledges social differences but accepts environment as a variable, they don't qualify? No. I think that you could probably be like an academic race realist that doesn't care about segregation. So for instance, like, I think race is real and observable, but race is also a social construction. So for instance, I'm just going to use this as a distraction because Anna, Ukrainian Anna, we're supposed to talk in a few minutes, and I want to make sure that she's available. But as an example, let's look at a West African man. Okay. So a West African man is 90% going to speak a Bantu language. And then this is how they're going to look, right? You know, broad features, dark skin, you know, kind of muscular, all that kind of stuff, right? This is going to be a West African man. Now, East African man, I'm going to make a prediction. East Africans are going to be a little bit lighter than West Africans. They're going to be a lot skinnier, and they're going to look like Ethiopians, and they're going to look like they can run. So, East African man. So, look at this. This guy is skinnier. These guys are darker. This dude's hella dark, so I'm kind of wrong in that degree. But, you know, all in all, I would say my associations of tall, skinny, lighter skinned is largely true of East African men. Now, there's some people with like West African features, but East African men stereotypically are going to have these things. Now, with like North African men, I'm going to predict that they're basically going to be Mediterranean. There will be some African features mixed in, but they're going to be more Mediterranean, light skin. They're going to look more like Arab or Greek or Cypriot, that kind of thing. And look, yep, boom, I was right again. So some African features, but lighter skinned, and they look Mediterranean. This guy could be perfectly at home in Turkey. He could also be perfectly at home in Greece. He could be perfectly home in Sicily. He's a Mediterranean person, right? So the truth is that we can make predictions of what people will look like based off of their regional affinity and cultural history and all that kind of stuff. But race is a very broad social category, like black. So black incorporates East Africans, West Africans, Caribbeans, and also people from various countries, right? So it's a very like broad categorization. White includes, weirdly enough, it's going to include sometimes Turkish people, sometimes not Turkish people, sometimes Greeks, sometimes not Greeks, right? So the point is that race is real insofar it's predictive to be able to predict features that people have based off of their ethno-religious origins, but it's a very broad category that can oftentimes be inaccurate. Have you ever been to Greece, Connor? No. But if I Google Greek man, I'm assuming we're going to see something relatively similar. Like this guy could live in Greece or he could live in Turkey and nobody would give a shit. Or he could live in Tunisia, right? Nobody would care because he's a Mediterranean man. Anyways, the point is that like race is real, but it's not very predictive and it's a weirdly broad category. Anyways, Sycamore says, I'm gonna check in with chat because we're kind of towards the end. StreamYard, and yes, it will be live. So Anna will be ready in like 5 minutes. So we'll as a matter of fact, fuck this guy, okay? He's a CCP shill. He's too talented as a propagandist in order to actually get murdered. He's done a bunch of apologia for the CCP regime. He's been found to be a hypocrite multiple times. He's apologizing for dictatorship the entire time while pretending that he's not. He's very intelligent, very funny. I would love to buy this guy a beer, frankly, the CCP shill. But I do think that he's doing apologia for a wildly dangerous, dystopian, authoritarian police regime. End of rant. Hell yeah, this is like a second birthday. All right. Vaush tent, Vaush tent, Vaush tent. All right.